Among the truly inspiring Americans of our age was an amazing woman by the name of Helen Keller. We all know her story. It has been told and retold many times in books, plays, and films. As a 19-month-old baby, she contracted an illness which left her both blind and deaf. Because she could not hear, she was unable to learn to speak. She was trapped in the lonely world of utter isolation, incapable of seeing anyone else, hearing anyone else, communicating with anyone else. She knew there was a world beyond the prison of her own self, and we can imagine her frustration not being able to reach that world. That was until a remarkable young woman by the name of Annie Sullivan came into her life. She herself was visually impaired, and so knew the frustrations as well as the keys to opening that world beyond. With incredible patience, Annie began by using the senses still available to little Helen. She gave Helen a doll, and with her fingers traced the letters D-O-L-L into the girl's hand, trying to make her understand this was its name, that everything had a name. Helen could not grasp the connection. Her frustration was even greater than that of her teacher. When handed a mug, along with the letters M-U-G traced countless times onto her palm, she finally became so exasperated that she shattered both the mug and the hope. But then finally one day it happened. As Annie ran cool water over her friend's hand while tickling her other hand with the letters W-A-T-E-R, a light suddenly went off in Helen's mind, and she realized the connection, realized all the connections, realized what words, those mysterious things she could neither hear nor read, were all about. The barrier had been burst, and with a vengeance, Helen entered the world outside herself. She now was insatiable in her quest for knowing the names of everything in the world that had suddenly become hers. Using her highly developed sense of touch, she learned to read Braille, learned to feel manual sign language, learned to hear others by reading their lips with her fingers. She even learned to enjoy the mysterious beauties of music as no one else by placing her fingertips on a table that was vibrating with the notes. She had penetrated a whole new world, and it was wonderful. But there still remained a frustration, a barrier, a closed curtain. She could now benefit from the speech of others, taking in what they had to offer. But how could she herself pass on what she had to offer? There was now so much inside of her bursting to be communicated to others, yet she could not speak. Once again, the inexhaustible Annie came to the rescue and incredibly taught her to speak, placing Helen's acutely sensitive fingers on the teacher's cheek so that she could feel the vibrations of the voice, a voice that, through much hard work and practice, she learned to imitate. Slowly, Helen was able to produce sounds she herself would never hear. She spoke, and for the rest of her long life, she continued speaking, and her speeches and lectures inspired a world from which she had once been shut out. She spoke about herself and her own journey. She spoke about human rights, women's rights, the rights of the oppressed, the disabled, and the poor. She spoke against war. She spoke about God, for through Annie, she had discovered God, later saying, "I always knew he was there, but I didn't know his name." Helen Keller spoke, and she wrote. A woman of great literary talent, she published 12 books and a number of articles. Nothing could keep her down, for she had learned not only to see without seeing, to hear without hearing, but also to communicate as no one had done before, to reach the hearts of people as no one else could have. Her eyes were blind, but she opened the eyes of others. Her ears were deaf, but when she spoke, people opened their own ears and listened. Despite her challenges, or perhaps because of them, she was able to reach beyond the usual human bounds, experience life, and share with others on a truly sublime level. "Sometimes it is true," she wrote, "a sense of isolation enfolds me like a cold mist as I sit alone and wait at life's shut gate. Beyond there is light and music and sweet companionship, but I may not enter. Silence sits immense upon my soul. Then comes hope with a smile and whispers, there is joy in self-forgetfulness. So I try to make the light in others' eyes my sun, the music in others' ears my symphony, the smile on others' lips my happiness." With the encouragement and assistance of her great admirer Mark Twain, Helen graduated from Radcliffe College, becoming the first deaf-blind person to receive a Bachelor of Arts. She met every president from Grover Cleveland to Lyndon Johnson. Helen Keller left her mark on the world in a way that no one with ordinary abilities would have been able to. All because she was able, despite all barriers, to reach beyond the world in which she felt confined and touch something on the other side. Like Helen, we too stumble through life, wishing to see what there is to see, wishing to hear what there is to hear, wishing to open our mouths and allow our thoughts to come out in some intelligible manner. Like Helen, we find that we don't know how. Our eyes may be open, but we do not really see. Our ears may be filled with noises, but we often understand nothing, nor does anyone else seem to understand what we are longing to express. With our heart, we know there is something beyond our own little world, something bigger than us, something we must be capable of reaching if only we knew how. Like Helen, we desperately want to penetrate the barrier of our own feeble senses. We want to touch that someone we know is there. I always knew he was there, but I didn't know his name. We want to see God. We want to hear God's voice. We want to know that our voices reach that far and are understood. In a word, we want to pray. teach us to pray, we cry out with the disciples. And like those disciples, like Helen, like every soul who has ever refused to accept that this is all there is, we find that we can. We can see. We can hear. We can speak. We can pray. We can reach out far beyond ourselves and experience that beyond with senses we did not know we had. I sit alone and wait at life's shut gate. Beyond there is light and music and sweet companionship, but I may not enter. Silence sits immense upon my soul. Then comes hope with a smile. I make the light in others' eyes my sun, the music in others' ears my symphony, the smile on others' lips my happiness. I pray. I burst the bars of my lonely prison. I pierce the heavens. I feel God's touch, and I feel my own self for the first time, for I have touched God.